All right, good evening, everyone. Apologies for starting a little bit late, but we're live on ATP Live. So, welcome. I'm just going to share the videos and make sure everybody can see me and hear me. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. So, let me just share the videos so that everybody can see. Right. I'm not sure anyone is watching. So if you're watching, please kindly share the video and invite friends and families to join us. Okay, welcome. I can't see anyone yet. So I'm just going to keep sharing. Welcome, everyone. If you're watching, please let me know you're there. Yeah, welcome. Please share, drop your questions and in the comment section. I sincerely apologize for starting a little bit late today. Thank you. But if you are there, just let me know you're there. I'm just sharing the video. I'm putting it up for everybody to see. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. Apologies for starting a little bit behind time. Please share the videos and drop your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much to those who are joining on Instagram, and thank you to those of you who have joined on Facebook as well. So, welcome everyone. Welcome. I guess we're going towards the last set of ATP Live for 2022. So it's been wonderful to be here almost every Monday for the last 11 months. So thank you everyone for keeping it a date with us. So welcome. Sorry. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions in the comment section so that we can handle them quite right, Holly. Okay, so Instagram, please drop your question. I hope I'm still live. I'm still live. Okay. Okay, just one more share, then I'll be ready to start. Share All right, so if you have any question, please drop your questions. We're on ATP Live Monday. Whether you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, please drop your questions and we will try and answer them in the next hour that we have. I don't think I can see any questions yet. Okay, let me check. Okay, good evening. I have only one person there. All right. But no questions. So if you're watching me on Instagram, welcome. Feel free to drop your question. And I can see a lot of people on Facebook watching. Please drop your questions and then we can start answering. Instagram, I don't know whether I did anything wrong, but I can't see comments or anything. Let me be sure I'm on the right page. Oh, all right. Okay, yeah. Okay, I think I did something wrong. Oh, okay. I can see your comments now. All right. Okay, so I will start with Instagram. Sorry, I thought I didn't see your questions, but I can see it now. Okay, somebody IJZ said, is it late to put a 4-year-old kid in speech therapy? No, it is never late. Speech therapy is available even for adults. So it's never late to put a child in speech therapy. It will be better if you tell us a little bit of the background of the child and why the child is going to speech therapy. So what is the level of the child? What is your concern? And then we can advise, because sometimes it may not just be only speech therapy. There may be other issues that also need to be addressed alongside. But if you have a special needs child or you have a child who has any developmental issues, it is never late to seek right support and help. So it is not late to do that. All right. Okay, thank you. I think that's the only question. Oh, okay. So, but okay, there's no specific topic. So today is life is you can ask any questions, any health questions you have about your children. You are free to ask. So there's no particular topic at all. So we just take every and any question as long as it has to do with children and try and give us a little bit of background, the age of the child, your concern about the child, and then your questions. So that way we have all the right information to give you the right answers. Okay. So let me go to Facebook now, since I don't think I've seen any other question on Instagram. The next question is saying, why is my 5-year always having temperature even after treating malaria? Okay, so the first thing is when asking those kind of questions, it's better to be more specific. So the word always is too general. So how many times in a week does your child ask temperature? What is the temperature? Do you actually use a thermometer to measure the temperature? Because a lot of parents think the child feels warm, but when you use a thermometer, there's actually no fever. So the most objective way is to tell us if your child has temperature, get a thermometer, measure it. Fever starts from 37.5. So no matter what you feel, if your child's thermometer is not reading 37.5, and you can easily get a digital thermometer. In most of the pharmacy now, there are lots of thermometers meant to be used by parents. So you just put it in and it will read the temperature straight for you digitally so you can see it. You don't need to use those ones that the nurses use in the hospital. So you can see the thermometer. So that's the temperature. It has to be 37.5. That's number one. Number two, so if your child has fever, you can give paracetamol and then you watch. And then make sure the house itself is not hot, the child is not overdressed and all that. So now if your child is actually truly and having fever, then you need to now go to the hospital. And it is not enough to just say the child has fever, we just treat for malaria, because there are so many causes of fever. But most of us always just assume every fever is malaria in Nigeria. So don't always assume every fever is malaria. When you go to the hospital, the doctor should ask you questions. They should examine your child. They should do blood tests. And then they should be able to tell you, based on what you told us, based on what we examined, based on the blood test, this is the cause of the fever. It could be malaria, it could be infection, it could be infection in virtually every organ of the body, ear infection, throat infection, eye infection, boils, tonsillitis. There's so many things that can cause fever. So it is after they have done all those assessments that they can now know the cause, and then they can treat it appropriately. So when your doctors give you treatment, make sure you complete it. Don't say because the fever has stopped after one day, then you don't continue the drugs anymore. No, you have to finish it. Even though the child is no longer having fever, if they say you should give the medication for 3 days, you give it for 3 days. If they say 5 days, you must complete it for the days. So if after you've completed the treatment, the child is still having fever, like as evidenced by you measuring with temperature and all, and measuring with the thermometer, then you can go back. So if your child is treated and have fever, because sometimes there are many reasons why a child may be treated and the child may still have fever. For example, it may be that the diagnosis is wrong. It may be that the medication is not the right medication. It may be that the medication is the right medication, but it is a fake medication, especially if you are buying your drugs in Nigeria in some places that it's not a good pharmacy. You can get a lot of fake. Or it may be that the child is resistant, like the medication we're giving, what we're using it to treat is resistant against it and all that. So there are many explanations. It doesn't mean that the doctor doesn't know work or anything like that. So you need to be very careful and to know what is really the issue with your child. So if your child keeps on having continuous fever, then you need to, sometimes doctors can need to refer your child to experts, specialists. Some specialists is their job to do further investigation. So there's what we call fever of unknown origin. The child is always having fevers for long and all that. So there are many factors. Usually at that point, you should be going to a pediatrician in a teaching hospital. So before you start making my child is always having fever, you need to think about everything I've just said now and make sure you're following those steps. And it is not normal for a child to always be having temperature, always having to be treated for malaria. It's not normal, and you need to deal with it. All right. Okay, so now let's go on to the next question. Somebody said, does the color of a baby's stool matter as long as it is watery? We don't want the stool to be watery. Okay, we don't want stool to be watery. So watery stool is not normal stool. So we don't want watery stool. We want stool to be normal stool. So I guess maybe you say as long as it's not watery. Yeah, the color of the stool may matter. Yes, it does. So for example, if the stool is black, and you are not giving the child like blood tonic or iron supplements, that may be a sign that that child is bleeding. So a child who is bleeding will have stools that are dark. We call it tarry like stools, like very black stools. So when we see black stools, the first person we want to ask is this child taking like blood tonic or iron supplement? Because iron supplement can change the color of stool. If you said no, then we're going to worry about whether the child is bleeding in any of the intestine or the stomach. Also, we can actually see the blood itself in the stool and can make this, and any blood in the stool is not normal, like really red blood is not normal. Sometimes if the stool does not have any color, like if it is whitish, it is clay-like color, we worry about it because that means there's a problem in the liver. So the color of stools matter. The color of stools tell us a lot of information. So it really, really matters what color of your baby's stool. Greenish stools also sometimes we see it in children who have obstruction, you know, in the intestine and all that. So although it could also be a sign of starvation, like the child is not getting enough milk, enough food, depending on the age. So you always need to tell us age. I prefer you don't ask generic kind of questions. It's better to ask, this is my child, this is the age of my child, this is what I saw, and then we can now tell you, give you guided advice. But if you just throw it open to general, color of stools, yes, the color of stools matter, because color of stools can tell us several things, depending on the age of the child, depending on other information about that child. But yes, the color of stools do matter, and they do tell the doctors lots of information. All right. So the next question says, is it true that a child who reflux a lot usually gets fat? All those things are myths. So stop all these myths. Immediately you even say it, you yourself, once you start anything with, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Most of those things are myths, because it is not something you're going to read. I'm sure it's not something you heard from a doctor. So if you have not heard it from a doctor, if anybody is telling you all those things, they are things that people just make up by themselves. So there's no link between a child who is spitting up and a child getting fat. In fact, if at all, a child who spits up too much may lose weight, because there are some children that have what we call severe reflux. If children have severe reflux, one of the signs of severity of reflux is loss of weight, and that is when we're going to treat the child. So by the time your child is having reflux, spitting up, and the child is losing weight, in fact, when your child has reflux, that's one of the things we're looking out for. The weight, is this child reflux enough to cause the child to lose weight? If no, we're not just going to worry. We just, most likely, we know that the child was growing. But if a child is having that reflux severe enough to make the child lose weight, then we're worried about it. Usually we would treat that kind of a child. We may need to give the child the medication. We may need, some children will even need surgery. That is, it can be that serious, depending on what is causing that reflux. So, but most of the spitting up that most babies do, they bring us a little bit of milk. Most of them doesn't really matter. It's because they have, I've already explained that several times. So those of you who listen to ATP Live regularly, so it's because the stomach is small. The space between the stomach and the mouth and the nose is very short, and most time babies are not yet sitting upright. They are always lying flat, and then they are having a a small stomach, short distance between the stomach and the mouth, liquid, food in the tummy, which can easily flow which backwards. The what we call the sphincter, or like a gate, supposed to keep the liquid in the stomach, is not really very efficient at that age. So it is easy for the liquid to flow past the gates, the sphincter, and go back. And that baby do a lot of reflux. And that is why we say, when you finish feeding your baby, don't put them down immediately. Keep them upright 15, 30 minutes. That will allow at least some digestion to start. It doesn't completely eliminate it, but at least the amount of liquid that will come back will be smaller, and it will be less. And but as by the time maybe goes some complementary of solids, then reflux will almost be a thing of the past. And then most time at that age, they're also sitting up. They're already sitting with support at 6 months, and then they are taking more solid food. So reflux is no longer an issue. But by the time they are very small, maybe in the first few months of life, liquid milk, very small stomach, always lying down. So that is why they are prone to having reflux. But don't believe any myths, and people said this, people said that. All those things are false. I've told you what you need to know about reflux, and it's not something to worry about. Good evening. What's the cause of greenish stool in a child of 3 months? What's the diagnosis for a stool that stinks in the diaper completely? So you cannot just write 2 lines and ask for a diagnosis. It is not done that way, okay? You can tell me what I think or what I should advise you to do, but you cannot write 2 lines in a question and ask for a diagnosis. That's not how doctors make diagnosis. Doctors have to see the child. We have to ask you a question. For example, how are you feeding this child? You've not told us whether your baby is on breast milk or whether your baby is on formula. Because some formula can actually give your baby greenish stool. And even this stool is a watery greenish stool, or is it bulky stool that is now green in color? So there are lots of information that we need to know first before we can even answer the question, and that has nothing to even do with diagnosis at all. So if it's greenish stool that is watery and scanty, most of the time it's because baby is not getting enough food. We talk about, actually, if it's a baby that's on breast milk, so we talk about inadequate breastfeeding or starvation stool. But if you are giving some formula, if you are formula feeding your child and the stool is not watery but thick and but is greenish, that is most likely pigmentation from the formula staining the stool green. So there are lots of other information that you need to know. So for a baby of 3 months, I expect that baby to be on breast milk only. And when you're breastfeeding, baby, breastfeed on demand, breastfeed frequently, empty the breast, okay? Alternate the breast, breastfeed frequently as much as possible. And then, so even when you breastfeed very well, a baby will sleep between 2 to 3 hours before they are ready for the next meal, and so they shouldn't be having greenish too. So and also so make sure you're doing that. If you're doing all that, your baby is having watery stool, it is greenish stool, that is not appropriate. You need to see a pediatrician because there's something definitely not going well at that point. All right, I'm going to pause on Facebook. Let me just quickly go back to Instagram and take. I think there's a lot of questions that start popping up on Instagram. So IJZ say he moved from Nigeria to the USA at 18 months and stopped talking. Now he's 4 years old and yet to talk. I'm really very shocked that your child moves to US or whoever, the child moves to US and is the child not getting any support? So, I mean, have you gone to see the pediatrician and have you seen a speech therapist? This is a country that has all those resources. So that child should have seen a pediatrician from that 18 months that the child stopped talking. So if a child is talking before and the child stopped talking, it is a red flag. We call it speech regression. It's a red flag for autism spectrum disorder. That child needs to have an autism assessment. So it is a red flag. If a child was talking before and now stopped talking, that child needs to see a pediatrician. That child needs to see a speech therapist. The child will need to see a speech therapist because the child sees speech therapy, but the child needs to see a pediatrician because the pediatrician most likely will need to do a developmental assessment. Most likely we need to do an autism assessment because that sign is a red flag for autism spectrum disorder and it's a sign that that child must be seen. So this child is in US, so this child should have is our home pediatrician. Every child in US should have their own pediatrician. So the pediatrician should see and may refer the child to developmental pediatrician for the further developmental and autism assessment. So, and it's never too late. And I'm just not happy with what happened between 18 months to 4 years. That's like 2 solid years of intervention that would have really helped the child lost or wasted. But I don't know the details. But no matter what, this child is still need help. Actually, for any child below the age of 5, we are still happy. They can see it's still good that they see and the right professionals and get the right support. Okay. Good evening, the breastfeeding dog. Wow, the breastfeeding dog. That's good. I love that name. All right. Good evening, everyone. Ray. Good evening, my baby girl, 6 months, has recurrent nasal congestion. I think you asked this question last week, if I remember. She breathes through the mouth all the time. Are there other causes aside virus? Any treatment? Yes. So if your child, so most of when we answer questions, we always put some extra stuff, extra information. But I notice that people always run with the first line or first two, and then you forget the rest of your information. So we've always qualified. If a child is having cough and catarrh, no fever, no difficulty with breathing, no fast breathing, that is the one that is most likely due to virus, and you should watch for them to resolve. But if a child is having cough, catarrh, whatever, and is having any breathing difficulties, that is no longer assuming virus. That is a child that needs to see a pediatrician. I think many people are mixing that part of the information. This child is breathing through the mouth. That is a child who is not breathing well. A child should breathing is what we call effortless. So when the child is breathing, you should not see, you should not feel. As I am talking to you now, I'm breathing, but you don't know I'm breathing because you are not seeing me making those efforts. That is normal breathing. So your child should breathe. You should see their chest move up and down, but you should not be hearing sound. You should not be hearing efforts. You should not be seeing them opening their mouth, because babies at this age, they breathe through their nose. So if the child has to open their mouth to breathe, it means they are not getting enough air through the mouth, through the nose, and they have to get extra hair by opening their mouth. That is a pediatrician case. That is no longer just a child who has virus thing. And especially now, you said all this recurrent. Again, if it's something that is happening over and over again, that is another sign that this child has to go to see a pediatrician. So for this mom or dad, I don't know which one, you really need to take this baby to see a pediatrician. They need to do proper evaluation of the child, because usually most babies who have viral infection, within 2 weeks, it should resolve, except they have been re-exposed. Especially for those of you that take babies to crèches, the child is, as their own is getting better, another child's own is still there, and they get reinfected. And by that time, that child is getting better. This child has started a second run, and then it's a vicious cycle. That's why sometimes we don't like, babies going to daycare or crèches. So if at all, the crèches or daycare have to be very strict to say if a child has cold or cough, you should keep the child at home. But no parents also is going to pressure and say, I don't have anywhere to keep the child, I have to go to work. So, but I think that's the right thing to do. We should not take children who have infections to the crèche, because they're going to spread it around, So if a child is having recurrent nasal congestion, a child is having mouth breathing, you are telling me this is not just, you are telling me there is more to this child than just what we call acute respiratory infection. There's some kind of obstruction. So this child has to see a pediatrician. And sometimes the pediatrician may see and may decide that we want the ENT doctor to see as well. So we want to know, is there any adenoid enlargement? Is there anything blocking the airway? Is there any, So we need to check all that. That is what the pediatrician is supposed to be doing. So please, you have to see them if you have not seen them. I can't remember. I know you asked this question. I remember your name, but I can't remember what the details you gave last week. But you definitely need to see a pediatrician, and if possible, if necessary, the pediatrician will decide whether you need to see the ENT doctors. Okay, but don't worry. There are many things that can cause blocking of the airway, but we need to know which one, and then we need to, sometimes we don't do anything about it. For example, if it's adenoids, we may not do anything about it, but at least we know that we monitor it. But if it's really bad and it's really severe and it's really affecting the child, we may have to do something about it as well. So that is why those are now specialist level of decision. All right. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Marachi Akorede, good evening, Doc. My 2-year, 2 months old sweats a lot from birth and easily reacts to heat. Please, ma, do I need to be worried? Okay, so there are some words, again, like I said, about the person that said my child is always having temperature. As pediatrician, we want objective information. So what is the definition of sweat a lot? So the definition of sweat a lot is what we really need to be sure here, because that's what will now determine what I tell you. Number one, is this child sleeping in a room that is well ventilated with AC, not wearing like overdress, even in hot weather? Which weather do you have where you're living? So those are the information a pediatrician wants to know. Wants to know whether the sweating is proportional to the weather and to the kind of ventilation in your room, or you're one of those moms that believe the child should not use an AC and then the room is so hot and the child is sweating. I mean, nobody's going to worry about that. So we will worry about a child who sweats so much that you have to change their clothes. Like they are soaking their clothes, they are soaking the bed sheets. That is what the pediatrician worry about, sweating a lot. Not that the child just has a little bit of sweat on their forehead. No, that will not count as sweat a lot. So if the child is sweating to the extent that everybody else is shivering for cold in a room that is cool and AC or whatever, and the child is still sweating, that is the definition of sweat a lot. So if your child qualifies for that, my own definition of sweat a lot, definitely you need to see a pediatrician. So we need to check for that. And for example, children that have what we call high thyroid hormone levels and all that, it's very rare in children. They can sweat a lot like that. So we need to know that. But if your child is in a hot room, in a hot weather, and is sweating, that is normal. So that is not sweat a lot. So you have to really tell us that. And some of you say child is, because when children have heat rashes is because they are not cooling, because what the body is trying to do is to cool the temperature down. And if you put things around the skin or wear clothes for the child and the body is not able to complete that process, then that is where you see all the sweat gets into like a small vesicle, like you start seeing them all over the skin and you see what look like heat rashes. So it's because the body is failing to cool, because the environment is not suitable or the child is overdressed and all that. So please always dress children lightly. There's nothing like they are catching pneumonia because breeze is blowing on them. Let the room be well ventilated. Use the fan, use the AC. There's no law against it. So that is what you need to do. Then secondly, what type of drug can I use to treat jedi? Number one, we don't make a diagnosis of jedi, so nobody's going to give you any drugs to treat any jedi. It's not a diagnosis a doctor make. Okay, so the people that make the diagnosis, they are the same people that gives you the drugs to treat it. So, but what I will recommend for you is that don't make any of such diagnosis in your children. Don't also accept it from anybody. So I did a survey sometimes for those of you who are on ACP, I'm sure you remember, and I asked people to tell me what they meant when they said their children have jedi. And I can tell you I have 20 different answers from what is jedi. So ranging from a child who is having bloody stool to a child who has a rectal prolapse, like the anus is coming out, or to a child who has rashes, to a child who has a back pain, to a child who has. So I got 20 different answers on what is jedi alone. So what does that tell us? Sorry, I need to plug my laptop before it dies off. So that tells us that when people use the word jedi, half of the people don't even know what they're talking about. They don't know at all. So people just use that term jedi. Yeah, it's jedi. Even ranging from people thinking abdominal pain, back pain, low back pain, everything is jedi. Cough, rashes, everything is jedi. So in medicine, there is no one diagnosis that covers 20 different things that I've mentioned that people refer to as jedi. So don't, it's better. So for me, if you want to ask me a question, I prefer you tell me what did you see in the child rather than say this is the diagnosis and asking me for the treatment. Number one, I'm not going to even give you any treatment online. Nobody does that. Number two, I don't even agree with any diagnosis you've made. That's number two, because mothers or parents are not the ones to make a diagnosis. It is a job of the doctors to do that. So what a doctor wants from you is to tell me the symptoms that you see in your child. Oh, my child is passing bloody stool. My child is passing diarrhea. People call diarrhea jedi. Or my child is having like something is coming out from the bum, and it's not going back when I press it back, or it's always out, or it's as if the bum is shooting out, or my child is having this, or my child have rash, or like some people call different things people call jedi. So if you tell me the symptoms that your child has, then I will know, okay, this is skin rash, or this is rectal prolapse, or this is dysentery, or this is diarrhea, and then I will make up my mind, okay, this is your right treatment, okay? But don't go and be giving. Some people think, okay, once your children eat a lot of dirty stuff, not dirty stuff, like a lot of sugary stuff, and then they now start complaining of abdominal pain. Oh, that is jedi. All sorts of myths and beliefs. So if you want to read more about this and my research on Nigerians answering that question, you can go to our website. I think it's on our website, and I've written about the myths of jedi. What is this jedi that everybody's always saying jedi all the time? Even people that are not Yorubas now, they also use the term jedi. Most of them, they are referring to multiple different conditions, and that was even just the top 20 I picked. There are other ones that I didn't even bother to pick them because they were not so many, but the top 20. So we've got 20 different conditions being referred to as jedi. There is no one medical condition that have 20 different things like that together. So when you go to the hospital, ask your doctors, these are the symptoms my baby has. They will ask you questions, they will examine your child, then they will make a diagnosis. And then based on the diagnosis they made, they will give you treatment. So for example, if your child has watery stool, we give you ORS or Racing. If your child has blood in the stool, that is dysentery, your child will need antibiotics and all that. If your child is having like rectal prolapse or hemorrhoids or things like that, the child may need some medication, the child may need even surgery. So it depends on what it is. So I hope that has really helped you. But if you want clarification, you can say ask more. All right. Somebody say I have a 1 year, 2 months old niece who is yet to crawl or walk. Should we give her time? Okay, so if a child is not crawling by 1 year, 2 months, I am worried that child is delayed, okay? Because normally 9 months is for crawling. So if the child is, though some children don't crawl, so crawling is a little bit tricky, but even then, I think you should see a pediatrician if this child can only not crawl at 1 year, 2 months, that is 14 months, you should see a pediatrician. If the child is not walking by 18 months, you definitely need to see a pediatrician. So this child has developmental delay. It's not like I'm not hoping the child does not. No, the child already has developmental delay. Let's take that straight away. The question now is, what is causing developmental delay here? Is it that the child is just being slow, or is it that the child actually has a medical condition that we need to deal with? So I think the earlier you see a pediatrician, the better. I would have said some children don't crawl at all, but then but they will be moving. So the child will be bottom shoveling. So if the child is not crawling, they will move with their bum. So, but if this child is not moving at all at 14 months, not crawling, not moving, not standing, not cruising, nothing, that child has already got developmental delay. That child has to see a pediatrician, and that child needs to be seen immediately. And then we can tell you what's next to do. Okay, somebody said my baby is on EBF. Okay, I guess that's somebody that asked question about greenish stool. The stool turned greenish. She's 3 months. I've noticed that stool. So if your baby was on EBF, your baby only recently started passing greenish stool, then you need to watch on the amount of breastfeeding you're doing. So you need to increase. So greenish with a mixture of egusi-like things. Egusi-like stool is actually normal for EBF babies, okay? But it should not be greenish unless you are talking about so because the way you write is what we say, because when you wrote before, you wrote greenish, watery, sinking completely in the diaper. That is a different thing. Now you are telling us now there's also some solid inside it, like egusi usually yellow like. I hope you're aware of that, not green in color. So if you have something that look like there's some solid parts and some liquid part, just a tinge of green, but not like everything is uniformly green, that can still be normal stool for a baby on exclusive breastfeeding. So if you are confused, the best option is that when you go take your baby for immunization for 14 weeks, show it to the nurses there or the doctors, then they can tell you this is normal stool. Unfortunately, you can't post it on our Facebook group because we don't allow pictures of stool to be posted. So but you can show it. But so you must differentiate. The stool that worries us is the one that there's completely watery stool, no solid inside, and completely uniformly green. Not that there's some solid parts, because babies on exclusive breastfeeding don't pass like thick, completely solid stool. They pass a mix of liquid and solid. We call it semi-formed stool. So which is why we normally describe it like egusi soup. You know your egusi, you have some part of it that is like water, some part of it like look chunky inside. That is the kind of stool we see in babies on exclusive breastfeeding. A little bit of that can still be green, but it won't be like uniformly green. I'm trying to remember what kind of green I should use to describe. I'm trying to think of something that is uniformly green. I'll remember later. I'll let you know, like as if you wash your ugu or you wash your, no, ugu is too dark green. I'm looking for a light green kind of stool. But if you go to our Facebook group, I think we may have a picture of all these kind of stools and their colors, and that may be helpful for you to know what we're referring to. But if you are telling us your baby is on EBF, is passing a goosey-like stool, that is normal. That is not diarrhea, and that is not abnormal stool. So just keep breastfeeding exclusively. So that's my answer to that. Somebody said my 5 month old is suddenly not wanting to suck anymore, and she suck little, blah blah. Uh, if I put the breast in her mouth, she starts to cry. So that is very unusual. But you didn't tell us, are you exclusively breastfeeding or are you formula feeding? Are you mixed feeding? Because this is a common scenario in babies that are mixed feeding. And it could be a sign of what we call nipple confusion. So if you're giving your baby both the bottle and the breast, some babies after a while would decide that they don't want the breast, they just want only the bottle, because most of you, the bottles are very big holes so that when they put it in their mouth, the milk is just rushing. But the breast, they have to suck it out. So babies, being wise and intelligent as they have, they go for the easy option out. So you have to tell us all the information. You have not disclosed the extra, whether your baby is on exclusive breastfeeding or just formula feeding. No, that's number one. If it's not mixed feeding, the second option issue is poor attachment. But I will assume that your 5 month old, you should have had experience with attachment your baby to the breast. Then, unless your baby has not been really sucking well, so we need those information, because sometimes some of you put the nipple in the mouth of the baby. Some mothers put the nipple. The nipple, when babies suck on the nipple, there's nothing coming out. So babies get frustrated, and that's why they cry, and that's why they don't want to suck. Because where the breast milk is stored is actually under the areola, the black parts beyond the nipple. So when you're putting breast in the mouth of the baby, you have to make sure you push everything inside, not just, don't let the baby just grab the nipple. You have to make sure that they open their mouth wide and you put much of the nipple. If you have not watched our breastfeeding videos, if you have not listened to any of our broadcast during the breastfeeding week, you may want to do that, because I think our lactation experts or our pediatricians, we've done justice to that topic, and we have a lot of breastfeeding videos to show you how to properly attach your baby to the breast. It's very important. Attachments, like I always repeat 100 times all the time, is 98% breastfeeding. Also get the attachment right. Everything else breastfeeding is smooth and easy. You will not have pain. Baby will be happy. Mother is happy. Everybody is happy. But you have to get the attachment right. Unfortunately, breastfeeding is something you have to learn. It may not come natural, to most of us. We have to learn how to breastfeed our baby. And that's why our nurses, our midwives, and pediatricians, we are there to support you to make sure you establish breastfeeding, because you also get it right, you'll just be enjoying it. So I don't know which one is the case in this 5 month old baby, but it is not normal for your baby to stop breastfeeding at 5 months. Your baby still needs to breastfeed for up to 2 years and beyond. So let's try and fix it. Let's try and fix it. And that's one excuse to say, oh, let me quickly go and jump on the formula wagon. If you're not doing formula before, it's just to fix what is wrong. And if you need help, nurses, midwives, our pediatricians are always there to help you. All right. Water is not coming out from my breast. Okay. I don't know, Queen. What was your first question before I don't know. Did you have any question before? Um, I don't know. You just put in randomly, water is not coming from my breast, and I'm confused. Where is the beginning part of it? All right. Okay. Good evening. I have tears anytime I sat down. It pains. What can I use? I'm not sure I understand this question. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. So which your Facebook user? I won't know who is who because there's a lot of Facebook user, but I assume somebody is one of those people that asked question earlier. Okay, all right. For Queen, I'm not sure I get your question. Can you re-ask your question and put everything in one post? Don't separate it and start from the beginning. I'm not really sure what it is you're asking about. Water is not coming from your breast. You're having tears. You're having pains. I'm not really sure, because you've not told me whether you're actually a mom breastfeeding a baby and how old your baby is. You need to tell us everything so that question will. I have understanding of the background and I can advise you appropriately. So just to clarify, because I'm not sure I'm getting what your question is. Okay, so I have some question on Instagram. Okay, I think I've answered that one. Somebody is saying, okay, I've answered this one. Okay, somebody, Tweety Liz. Good evening. My son of 3 years old has always been fairer in his face since infancy, and I've always used hypoallergenic soap and coconut oil for him Is this an issue or is coloration will balance out? So I don't understand the question. So you say your baby is fairer on the face, but is it that the baby is dark on the rest of the skin? Is it like baby is fair throughout and maybe just the face is fairer, or the baby is dark on the skin and fair on the face? We really need to have some context to be able to say that. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, what exactly is the soap you used? What exactly is the you say use coconut oil? Okay, so we know coconut oil will not change the child something. So some babies, when their color is different, it is not that they are fairer. They may actually have like an infection. For example, if they have fungal infection, it could affect the color of their skin. So some parts will be light skin, but it won't be uniformly like fair. It will be like some part will be fair, some part will be dark, and all that. So I would say you should get a proper opinion from somebody who is seeing the child, like a pediatrician having a look on the child. So, and we can compare the rest of the body. Then another thing I want mothers to realize is that babies, how old is this baby? 3 year old. Okay, babies, they sometimes look fair when they are born, but they are not necessarily going to be fair. Some of you are black skin, your husband is dark skin, and then you have a baby, and everybody is on the mission to make sure that this baby is the only fair person in this family. No, babies are born fair because at that time they have melatonin. I mean, not melatonin, sorry, melanocytes, or the part of the skin that actually give us that dark skin. But they have not started using it because they've been inside your womb and all that. But when they get born, they are now getting exposed to the sun, they're getting exposed to, they produce a lot of melanin, which is good, which keeps protecting their skin from cancers and all the radiations and all that. So they change color and they will become their natural genetic skin color, which is that they are going to be black. So that does not mean we now start getting upset and start adding things to their cream. Some others will add all these triple action creams to creams and all that. Those things, they damage the children's skin. They are not. So if your child is going to be genetically black skin, your child will be black skin. There's no need to you to worry, and there's nothing wrong with being black skin. Black is beautiful. So and if maybe it's going to be fair, you don't need to move heaven and hell to make them fair. They will be fair even if you are only using Vaseline on their skin. So there's no need to use any special products. There's no need to use any special thing on the baby's skin. So I'm not really sure about in your own baby. So I would rather somebody sees the baby like a pediatrician or a skin doctor and compare and then advise you appropriately. So no need to worry. All right. I hope I've answered that one. Okay, so the next question I got on Instagram. Ude also Chelsea. My baby is 13 days, weight 3.5, sucks so much. What is suck so much? Okay, anyway, so how can I increase my flow and my nipple and areola is very big for him to large? Okay, so there's nothing like baby is sucking too much. Baby should suck and they should suck on demand. Okay, it's not too much. All right, just relax. Okay, then the issue of the areola and nipple is too big. I really doubt that, but it's better I think that you may need support from somebody physically, like a midwife or pediatrician, so that they can teach you how for your baby to latch onto the breast. But more importantly, can you watch all the breastfeeding videos if you have not watched them and see how the baby should latch onto the breast? So the best thing is that when you want to breastfeed, your babies should open the mouth very wide, and then you put in most of the areola, the black and everything. They are because the part that we want in the baby's mouth is that nipple and the areola, and I'm still wondering how that can be very big for your baby's mouth. Unless you're saying your baby is small, your baby is weighing 3.5, your baby is not small, your baby is average weight for a newborn baby. So, but because I'm not seeing the baby, how it's better to see somebody physically so that they can, as a new mom, I know it can be quite difficult to establish breastfeeding. So we are there to support you. That's why we have baby friendly hospitals, nurses, doctors. They are there to support you to make sure that you get the breastfeeding. But you can always breastfeed your baby unless your baby is really very tiny. Those are the ones that we sometimes say, okay, express and give. But I doubt this any breast that will be too big for a 3.5 kilo baby. I doubt, unless you are really like massive and you have very, massive breasts, really. In that case, then we'll say you should express. But an average mother can breastfeed the baby, and there's no, the nipple and the breast and the areola will never be too big, unless you are really a very big, big mom, like very big. You know what I mean? But I doubt. But notwithstanding, you can get some help. But I think you have to see one of us face to face. So the what will make your breast milk to flow is the more the baby suck, the milk will flow. But you have to make sure that baby is sucking right on the areola, not just the nipple. And so the more the baby suck, you relax, the baby will. And from what you say, your baby is sucking too much. So I'm assuming maybe you want to suck. So please make sure the baby suck, because it's that sucking that will make the milk to flow. So you eat, you relax, you rest, you got this, you drink water, and baby sucks and the milk will be produced. It is a brain thing, it's an hormone thing. So the more the baby sucks, the more the brain gets the information that we need more breast milk, and it is more that will be produced. But if you are worried and stressed and anxious, then you are going to release stress hormones, and your stress hormones are going to block the breast milk production. So there's nothing special you need to make your milk to flow. You just need to relax and let your baby suck, and the milk will flow. That's all. It's very simple. I hope that helps. All right. I think our time is up. So I'll answer the question that is here, and then I will close it for the day. All right. So the next question: my 6 month old baby is growing pubic hair. Okay, in our genital area. Is this normal? We need to see the baby. It is not normal, but then we need to see how much of it is there. Is it something just like some babies could just have very sparse, hair, and most time we don't worry about that. But if the baby is really growing pubic hair that is so obvious to you and maybe to other people, then you need to see a pediatric endocrinologist. If you go to any of the teaching hospital, you can ask your current doctor to refer you to the teaching hospital to see a pediatric endocrinologist. So we need to check that there are not some hormone imbalance and all that issues. We just need to check and make sure there's no issue. So, and if there is, we can deal with it. So you have to see one urgently. Yeah, the earlier the better. And you didn't tell why your baby is okay, it's a girl. So public, yeah, okay, it's a girl. So anyway, just see a pediatrician, preferably a pediatric endocrinologist. All right, I think that's the last question. I hope so. All right, okay. So yeah, Ude also Chelsea, no problem. That's what we're here. If you're a first-time mom, you can grab any of our first-time mom companion copy, and I'm sure it will really help you navigate this motherhood journey. You can do it. I know you can do it. Usually, the first time can be quite difficult, but after a while, once you get the hang of it, you will enjoy it. Breastfeeding is actually very nice and pleasurable, and mothers actually love it, and it doesn't stress you. You don't need to worry about hot water, bag, formula. And in this economy of cost of living crisis, it doesn't affect breastfeeding. So it's good. It's good to go for breastfeeding. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We're sorry we started a little bit late today. I ran late before I could come in, but I think we've answered all the questions that have come in. Please, if you still have any questions, feel free to go to our Facebook group. Ask the pediatricians on Facebook. You can miss our group. We have one of the largest parents group on Facebook in Nigeria, at least. So you can join and you can ask your questions from Mondays to Saturdays. And some of you always send me a lot of messages on my inbox, like on Sundays. And I don't know why, because I always repeat that we don't answer questions on Sunday, but everybody always forget. Not everybody, at least some people will always forget. And then you always come to ask me, I can't post. You can't post on Sundays because our moderators and our volunteers take that day off to rest as well. So, but Mondays from today to Saturday, you are free to post. But let me also warn us that from December 19th, we will shut down the group. Not shut down, the group will be there, but we will not be taking fresh questions because our moderators, our volunteers are going to go on the festive break, and so we'll resume again in January. But we'll let you know more towards that time. But you still have time now to ask your questions, and we will try and answer them. And then, of course, if you want to learn more, we have our website. You can read lots of topics. Every topic on child health issues, we've mostly addressed them. You can always go to our website, www.askthepaediatricians.com, and you can ask your questions there, and you get your immediate answers. And not you can read your posts. You can also ask questions on our website, but it's not as quick as on our Facebook group. So we try to answer on Facebook within 24, 48, 72 hours max. But on the website, it may take like a week or so. So if it's urgent, you better ask on our Facebook group. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And I'll see you guys same time next week. I think somebody said maybe like to see me, like to suck whenever he sees me eating. It's 4.5 months. I don't think there's anything to it. There's nothing wrong with that. Baby can suck anytime they want to suck. I think you're the one reading me into it. So there's nothing wrong. But please, if you are breastfeeding while eating, just make sure you don't put pepper in our baby's eyes. That's the one that will cause our wahala. Okay? Don't put pepper in baby's eyes. So make sure you breastfeed. I know there's a lot of myths and all those things about don't breastfeed when you are eating, or the baby is taking all the food that you are eating, or all those ones are myths. So there's nothing wrong, but please make sure that safety of the baby is priority. So if you can, why not eat when your baby is sleeping? Because most baby, when they finish sucking, they should sleep. So then you can have time to eat your own food at that time. So I doubt if your baby, of course, I know that from 4 months, they're now more awake, but either you eat before your baby wakes up, or you eat when your baby is sleeping, or you work out something that works for you. But if you can't work it out, it's okay to breastfeed your baby while you are eating. Just make sure you are very careful and you don't put pepper in baby's eyes so that you don't end up with us in the hospital. All right. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you again next week by God's grace. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.